Joe, tell us a little bit of some of the smuggling stories that you know of, or you remember, or that you've been told about by friends and family. And I know you've had quite a few of them there. So I'm minded about your brother who had his Rolo taken off
Yeah,
a few years later. But when in 1921, when the customs posts started to come into being after partition and so on, um, those customs posts, of course, had different opening hours, north and south, didn't
yeah.
they? But there were different ways
The
people
British
got around.
customs were open from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. Then they closed down. Like, but the Irish customs posts, they would be open from the morning until. And if you wanted to cross the border with your car, you had to get somebody. You had to get a bailsman to bond you. You know, to get a pass to go across the border. Actually, I think the full details of that is in the museum in Enniskillen. You know, the type of book you needed and the bailsmen and all that sort of thing. So that was fairly. It is an interesting period, but we grew up and we accepted it. You know.
Tell us how Mr. Duffy got his nickname.
The ghost Duffy. Yeah, he lived between Garrison and Belcoo, like along the border up there. You see, and he was smuggling cattle one night, and this policeman was on the scene and seized the cattle, and Duffy got on his bicycle, cycled over the mountain into Enniskillen, and booked into a lady who had kept lodgers for the night. And when the case came up in the Billy Courthouse, and it was over the RUC barracks that we mentioned earlier, it was up on the top floor, and he was right there. So the evidence was given, and this lady from Enniskillen gave genuine, true evidence that Mr. Duffy had spent the night in her house, and he couldn't possibly have been there. So the case was dismissed. So somebody asked the policeman, "Are you sure that there was Duffy you seen? That with those cattle?" Well, if it wasn't him, it was just a ghost. and I knew Duffy, like, and I knew his daughter used to fix bicycles for them, you know. Again, the sort of things that you see during the economic war in the 1930s, when De Valera, when the big landowners in the Free State, where the people are given the right to buy their farms and all, and De Valera stopped sending the money over to England, and England then refused to take the cattle from Ireland over, and a bullock that was worth £20 could be bought in the Free State for £5, and was smuggled across then where it was worth £20. At that time, £15 is a lot of money, so a lot of people made a lot of money. Actually, there was one character, another bit of Irish humour. He had the name of Miles Sweeney, who would have lived in my time, you know, and he was caught by the Free State authorities in smuggling cattle. And he opted to be tried not in the district court, but in the county court by a judge and jury. And if you can imagine, like, a jury of Leitrim men were not going to find one of their mates guilty, and he was found innocent, and his cattle returned to him.
You have to know the system.
He doesn't know the system, but he was a character.
So Duffy was known as Ghost Duffy.
Ghost Duffy. Then from that, the policeman said, "This is how he got his name." I knew him very well, you know.
And it wasn't just the men; it was women who did some of the smuggling.
Oh, they did some of the smuggling too as well.
There's a lovely story at the time that you have about a lady who had a guest house in Bundoran.
Oh, that's right. And she was very, very so-called strong Republican family, and she was a native of Dungannon. And that time they would travel by train. When the GNR was going, you could get a 6 o'clock train in Ballyke in the morning, take you to either Dublin or Belfast, do a full day's business and be back in Ballyke at 9 o'clock at night. But she would travel from Bundoran up to Cookstown. And the poor old dear, like, she kept one of these old crockery hot water bottles to keep it warm. And when the customs men inspected these trains at Ballyke border, the British customs, you know, that had gets away for the old lady with a hot water bottle. When she got up to Dungannon, the hot water was full of whiskey, and it was emptied out and dried out, and then tea, which was very scarce in the Free State, the hot water was filled with the tea leaves and smuggled by again. So again, can you beat the Irish for finding a solution to a system?
And I love the story, if I've got the name right, of Thady John. Was it Thady John?
Oh, he had one of these engines.
Tell us the name properly and tell us.
Thady John Malone, and he had one of these engines you could put in the back wheel of a bicycle to an ordinary push bike, and he had to have somebody to cross the border. He had somebody to act as bailsman for him to ensure that that he would renew the pass every 12 months. When the time came, then the engine had given trouble, so Thady John got a summons from the Irish Customs to cancel the ban, and he put the bits of the thing in the back and he put them in. He says, "There you are now. There's your engine. You can do what you like with it."